Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ArtsBeat TV and radio here on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. I'm Mark Auerbach, your host. We've got a great program on tap for you today. And without much ado, I want to introduce the scenic designer, Juliana von Haubrich, who is Wham's resident scenic designer. We had a chance to chat a couple of years ago when she was designing a production of a play whose title I'd forgotten for Westfield State University. And I've gotten to appreciate her work over the years and chatting with her. And last year, she designed a production of Holland Taylor's play Anne, which starred Jane Atkinson at Wham Theater. And Anne is the story of the Texas Governor Ann Richards. It was a major hit for Wham, and the production ended up going to the Arena Stage in Washington, D.C., and to the Dallas Theater Center, and Juliana's set designs were part of that. So, Juliana, welcome back. It's great to chat with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Wow, a lot happened over those years, eh?
Yeah, lots happened. So, bring us up to date. Since Anne, what have you been up to?
Well, yeah, right. Everybody has pretty much been up to the same thing, which is quarantine and trying to figure out how to do theater from home, basically. After Anne, and Kristen and I were like, wow, we were so grateful that Anne happened in 2019 because, you know, it would have just been another gut punch if it had been, you know, this year and we had to stop. And the unfortunate thing was we were supposed to do Anne at Laguna in California, as a continuation from Dallas Theater Center, and that was supposed to happen this May, and that got pulled the plug, because of the pandemic. So we had to kind of say goodbye to Anne, and it was very sad. We're mourning. We are definitely mourning.
Will they be able to redo it when the pandemic ends?
I hope so. I really hope that Laguna still feels that it's a poignant play to produce at that time. That's the thing. A lot of the conversation from theater artists that I respect has been, now that we're in this pandemic and shut down, let's take a pause and really think about the stories that we want to tell going forward. And what kind of world are we going to be after all this? Is it going to be the same world that, wanted to go see Anne in 2019? I don't know.
I question that. And one of the interesting things that I find that Wham is doing that you're involved with is that this month they're going to be doing Lisa Loomer's play Roe, which is the story of Roe versus Wade, and kind of the people behind it. We all know what the law is about, and it didn't happen all that long ago. But I had no idea who Roe was or Wade was, and this play really brings it out in focus. And how serendipity has you guys producing this play just as Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passes away, and people wonder whether Roe versus Wade will be overturned when a new Supreme Court justice is appointed.
Yeah, talk about an artist dancing with history. That's the way I feel right now. It's like we're dancing with history. And in fact, the day after she passed away was the day that we were recording the Supreme Court scenes for Roe v. Wade. And that was a heavy, heavy experience for a lot of us that day.
So let me ask the technicality of the play Roe. I mean, it is being recorded to be streamed by Wham Theater in October, and information is available at their website, whamtheater.org. So are you filming this the way one would film a movie, scene by scene by scene, and putting it together, or will it ultimately, and are you filming it on a theater stage, or are you filming it in separate locations? How's it all working?
It is a strange little baby hybrid. I tell you, because I used to work in film and television before I moved east, because I went to Cal Arts. And so I have a little bit of experience in that area. and had made the conscious decision to focus on theater because I love the liveness of it. When the pandemic hit, and we had already planned to do Row this year, we were going to do it at the Tina Packer Theater. When the pandemic hit and the question became, do we continue? Do we continue to tell this story given all the limitations that are going to be put in our way? It was a resounding, unanimous yes. It was so important to tell this story right now. And we didn't even know then what was going to happen, right? So it's become even more important. So for us, in how we tell this story, the limitations given the pandemic, I keep thinking about this thing I did in grad school where my friends kept giving me different utensils to eat with, and I was so hungry that I just used every single one of it. It didn't matter, spatula, egg beater, I didn't care, I was going to eat. That's the way this feels. It's like, doesn't matter to me what tool you give me, I'm going to tell this story because it's so important to tell. So the first task was what are our limitations at that moment? And the kind of contract that we have with Actors Equity stipulated that the actors had to remain at home. We couldn't do on location. We couldn't, do anything like that. It had to be from home. So that was one limitation. So it all became about what could we do with Zoom? What could they do from their home? And how do we want to tell this story? And I started to think in terms of virtual backgrounds and creating this virtual experience of going to a theater. So we developed a microsite that is going to exist for this Row experience. So when an audience member buys a ticket, they actually go to this virtual lobby, like a theater lobby, and there's going to be different wings that they can go to once they have their ticket to explore different aspects of the story. The actual video that we created to tell the story is just one of the wings. And we did use Zoom. We did record it much like a film, scene by scene, take by take. And we are so lucky to have a company called Outpost Productions that has joined us on this weird journey adventure. They are going to do all the post-production, and I am working with them right now on all the footage that we took, layering in virtual backgrounds, layering in other layers, moving the Zoom squares around on the screen. I did over 200 drawings, like a storyboard, which is very much like film, like what I used to do. And we just laid the whole story out. How did we want to tell this with these little Zoom squares? It was amazing. I have to say, it was amazing. We have been so lucky along the way to have so many great team members, great actors who are willing to just go for it. They were their own prop master. They were their own costume dresser. They were their own scenic designer for the most part,
Yeah, and some of them, a lot of the people in it have extraordinary credentials. For example, Tara Franklin, who...
We were so lucky.
I tease her. I say, I would pay good money to see her read the phone book because she's so versatile. And
we're not kidding.
And Ryan Winkles, who's from Shakespeare and Company, who's one of the fight directors. And each person in this large cast show just has phenomenal credentials.
And you know what's cool about this Zoom thing that is somewhat related to theater is they're going to be in your home, and when they look at the camera, the intimacy that you get from that moment, like you get in a film, is different from theater. It's really powerful. And like you said, Tara and Ryan, some of their scenes, just in rehearsals, we were blown away. One of the great things that we did was at the start of every session, Kristen would rehearse with the actors, rehearse the scene. I would pop in very early and help them lay out their green screen and their furniture, and costume designer would make sure that they had all, everything that they needed. We used Airtable, by the way. Shout out to Airtable, which is an amazing software that organizes.
Yeah, I'm using that. I'm using that for this podcast series that I'm working on with a team
of
people
awesome?
All over the country. Airtable is really terrific.
It saved our bacon. It basically helped us create recipe boxes, what I called recipe boxes, for our actors. So they knew what scene was being recorded, what pieces of furniture they needed that we had already, scoped out, what costumes to wear, what the storyboard looked like. I even had ground plans for them to help them lay things out. It was kind of a lifesaver, Airtable. It really helped us work remotely. And so those rehearsal sessions, what was really great was after we had all that stuff set up, Kristen would have sorry, I'm on the back porch. You can hear a car going by.
Well, that's different. Okay.
And I'm in the country, so the chances of a giant truck rolling by is really funny. But anyhow, so one great thing about the rehearsals was that Kristen had all the actors face the camera and do the scenes looking at each other at least one or two times, and they developed this great connection with each other so that when it was time to record the scene and they had to kind of step back into this virtual world and look off stage left and pretend that their person was standing over there in their space, it made it work. I mean, we were blown away. The connections, the bonds that we made virtually, we didn't think that we were going to make those bonds and connections, but we all did, and there were like tears by the end of it when we were done with all the recordings, and we danced it out, and I mean, we had all the same bonding and connections that you have in a rehearsal room. It was bizarre. Now, I don't know how we did it.
You and Kristen Van Ginhoven have worked together before on several productions. So did that make it easier to collaborate on something this flexible?
Yes. Yeah, that is a very astute observation. Yes, I think so. In fact, and Kristen has basically said as much. We had a real dream team for this production. Hope Rose Kelly, who is an awesome stage manager who works a lot at Shakespeare and Company. She's like their lead stage manager there. She's stage managed many of our shows, Wham shows. She's an associate artist for Wham. She took this beast on. She's the one that brought us Airtable. She is amazing. She kept us organized.
Yeah.
And I became Wham's production manager this year in addition to their scenic designer. So this is my first one to manage.
So that means that you've taken on all kinds of administrative responsibilities besides designing a set.
Yeah, I have.
But how long have you been with Wham?
Since the very first main fall production. That's when I met Kristen. It was the Melancholy play. And we did it upstairs at the Beacon, where the Beacon Cinema is in Pittsfield, in this like boardroom. And it was a friend of mine who knew her, and she was looking for a scenic designer, and he said, "Oh my God, you got to meet Juliana, and Juliana, you got to meet Kristen." And as they say, it was love at first sight, and we've been working together basically ever since. A couple of times Kristen has worked with other designers, which she should, because I don't want to hog her from everybody. But mostly we've worked together, and I've had the fortune to work with other directors as well. But it is very much like a yin and yang.
Yeah, well, I think it's important for people to work with different people because you get different perspectives and you learn new things. Juliana, we're going to take a fast break here to acknowledge the underwriters that make ArtsBeat TV and radio possible. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today. I'm Mark Auerbach. We are broadcasting from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy. And this program airs every Friday at 8 o'clock. And if you've missed a program or you tune in for part of one, you can find them all archived on YouTube on WSKB Community Radio's channel. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to ArtsBeat, everyone. My name is Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and we're having the luxury and fun of chatting with Juliana von Haubrich, who is the scenic designer and production manager for Wham Theater. They are about to present the play Roe, which is the story of Roe versus Wade. It's by Lisa Loomer. It's a large cast production, including some of the finest area actors that you're likely to ever see on a stage, including Tara Franklin and Ryan Winkles. And for information on that, whamtheater.com, wamtheater.com. Juliana, when did you already come to the Western Mass before you got involved in Wham, or were you here before then?
Yes, I had left the city, New York City, in 2004, and actually naively did not realize how much theater was in the Berkshires. We came here because my husband got a job up at the North Adams Airport. He's a map maker, so we landed in the right spot, I guess, you know.
And now that you're a transplanted member of the 413, how do you like working and living here? I mean, both of you come from other places. Are you finding the amenities good? Do you like the community and all of that?
I do. I love the history of creativity, of support of the artists that used to come here and still come here. Artists flock to this area for a reason. I think it's the beauty of the environment. It kind of heals your soul, which is what I came here for. The one thing, though, that and what I love also about the Berkshires and the 413 area is their ability to look at a problem and try to solve it. The diversity that we are trying to solve, the need for it, the fact that when you go to theaters and you look left and right, most of the people look like you, and that shouldn't be the case. So we're trying to solve that, and I love that the Berkshires is brave enough to confront that. Julianne Boyd and Kate at the Berkshire Theater Group and all the leaders of these theater companies, Shakespeare and Company, they all are addressing this problem head on and not shrinking from it, and I love that, you know, so...
I mean, for me, although I was born and raised here and lived away for many years, I find a comfort level of being here because the natural beauty of the area is just so comforting, whether it's fall foliage or the colors of spring or even the colors of winter. But the people that have moved here and chosen to work here come from all over the map, and the energy that takes place in all of these parts of Western Mass is so exciting.
Yeah, it's like an artistic stew, you know. I love it.
Yeah. So what's on the program for you for the course of the season? Is Wham going to be your prime venture, or do you have some other plans?
Yeah, I mean, thank God for Wham, and I'm sure many artists feel that way. We've been lucky enough to work with a number of interns this year from local universities in the area and in Albany, and these young artists are so grateful for the work. We're paying them. We're paying all of our artists, which we feel really good about. We're giving jobs to people at a time when jobs are scarce, so we really like that. We have another production coming up, the Thanksgiving play, which is going to be after Roe, and the Thanksgiving play is written by Larissa Fasthorse. and we are going to be focusing on our indigenous communities. The Mohican Nation is going to be involved with this production. We've got a Native American cartoonist, illustrator, animator who's going to be doing sections of this play, because again, it's going to be streaming, and that's, I think, the way things are going to be this year for Wham for sure, is this streaming element. But we're excited because we're building, like I said, a virtual lobby for each show. So it's going to be more than just watching a play, because, you know, Wham is about activism, and that was one of our biggest challenges in this virtual, you know, world, is how do we maintain our focus on activism as well. So.
Can you just backtrack a little bit? I mean, Kristen Vengenhoven has been on the show many times. So is Talia Kingston, and she's going to actually be on in a couple of weeks to talk about the Thanksgiving play. But Wham is unique in the fact that it gives a certain percentage of its box office take to area or regional not-for-profit organizations that provide services to women and children. I know it's been extraordinarily successful in doing that with a great track record over its 10-plus years, but it must be working in that environment where you know that your work is not only going to benefit an audience, but somebody who may have no connection to theater at all that needs help. That must change your perspective on working for Wham.
It is possibly the one reason I still do theater, to be honest, because when I left New York City, it was all about, you know, the commercial, you know, aspect of it. I was getting paid really well, you know, there was a lot of entertainment, but I felt kind of hollow about it. And Wham gives me this sense that my art does more than just entertain. I mean, I'm okay with that, but I want my effort to go farther. And that's what's special about Wham, is that double philanthropic model that a lot of people were like, how can you do that? You know, theater it's in itself a charity in a way, you know, but no, we have been able to donate, I believe, up to like $75,000 to organizations that are on the front lines fighting for women and girls. The same is true for Row. We have 3 beneficiaries that are going to get a portion of the proceeds for Row. And what's amazing about Row is the ticket structure that we have developed for Row. You can pay $15, you can pay $25, you can pay $50 or $100. It is up to you to decide what your ticket price is. And I love that, because anybody can come see this show. And with that, a portion of whatever that is goes to those 3 organizations to help them, help young people in the area with sex education, help, you know, young girls express themselves, preserve rights for women. It's just wonderful how your dollar does so much.
Yeah,
for Wham.
you know, all of us in the creative economy primarily work for not-for-profits. So to be able to give something back to the communities that support us is so important.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and I would say go to our website, you know, Wham Theater, and it's THEATRE, the European spelling of theater, .com. And you'll see the 3 beneficiaries. There's a great interview video that Kristen did with the 3 of them to learn more about who these organizations are. So.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to ask you, your work is really phenomenal. I've seen so many productions, and each one is so different. But you have a website that's sort of like a museum of the Juliana von Haubrich designs, correct?
Yeah, it's jvonhdesigns.com. So jvonhdesigns.com, yeah.
So
and the Westfield one is on there. For Westfield, it was Oh Beautiful. And Westfield did a phenomenal job working with me on that production. It is one of my favorites. I feature it on my homepage.
That's terrific. I mean, do you get a chance to work with college students in theater that often, or?
Yes, and I maintain contacts with them. In fact, 2 of our interns on Row, one of our actors even, are from colleges that I've worked with, from Russell Sage. We have Katie McTeague, who's one of our actors. She's a phenomenal young artist. And we have Kat Dickerson, who's from Albany. She was in my production of Hair that I did there, which was a great production. So I love having these students that I've worked with before come back and work with us as young professionals.
That's great. That's great. So if people want to see your work, they can see it online when the production of Row opens. The play is by Lisa Loomer, who's a well-known playwright. The play is not new. I mean, it's recent. But in the light of what's going to happen over the next month or so as the current administration attempts to pick a new Supreme Court justice to replace, if they can use the word replace, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Roe versus Wade is going to be in the headlines again. And it's really good to know the backstory of it, which this play tells. So you know who was Roe, who was Wade, and what were they thinking? So,
and in fact, like I said, we did the Supreme Court scene right after she died. I was pressing the sound cues because we used the actual recording of the justices' voices, and it was all these men's voices talking about women's bodies, and that was not lost on us.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tumultuous times and a very great piece of theater that I think people will enjoy as well as learn something from. And none of us have any idea what the next weeks and months are going to be like. But if you need a good backgrounder, the theater is always a good place to go to learn about our past.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to have Dr. Laura Briggs, who is a reproductive rights scholar, who will be giving a lecture as part of our Row experience. There's Essential Partners, who's going to do a workshop about how to talk to people who are on opposite sides, how to have that conversation. So, you know, it's more than just the play.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And Juliana, thanks for joining me this morning. As I said to you when we were chatting online, it's been too long. So hopefully we can chat again in the future. I always love having you on ArtsBeat.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, well, you're listening to ArtsBeat TV and Radio. I'm Mark Auerbach. Our guest was Juliana von Haubrich, who is the production and scenic designer for Wham Theater's production of Row. We're going to take a quick break to acknowledge our underwriters. We'll be back with Mariel Darling, who's an up-and-coming singer who's based in Longmeadow, who's got national prominence, and it's great to see young people on the move. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardy siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Join us the third Wednesday of every month with Selectman Joe Didi and his take on everything Southwick.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to ArtsBeat TV and Radio, everyone. We got a treat for you this last half hour of today's program. It is an interview with Mariel Darling, who's a young up-and-coming singer, songwriter, and social media influencer. I got to meet Mariel a couple of months ago when I was doing a story for a magazine called Succeeding in Small Business, and we were talking about young people and their attitudes towards what's going on in the world, and in this particular case, how they were marketing themselves during the pandemic to get ahead. two of the people involved in the program were college students that were trying to market themselves for jobs and internships and things like that. Mariel Darling had just graduated high school at Wilbraham and Munson, and she already had a career going while she was taking this time to go to college and get a degree at Western New England University. And Brenda Garton, the director of that particular program, introduced us. So I've had a chance to chat with Mariel once before and listen to some of her music and follow her on Instagram. And I just think you're in for a treat meeting somebody who's young and up and coming and knows the route that they're planning to get where they need to go. Mariel, welcome to ArtsBeat.
Hello, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you.
It's such an honor.
Yeah. First, I have like a whole slew of questions, but first of all, you're at a tender age, as one would say, and you've already made significant steps in getting your career up and going. And your music is fascinating. When did you get involved in the music, and when did you realize that you had an opportunity to make it into a career?
So I stepped in the studio at the ripe age of 9 years old. I started writing my own songs. I started meeting a bunch of producers. My first manager actually worked for Radio Disney, and that is how I met my first producer and worked with people in Radio Disney. And I kind of just started off like that. I was in the studio kind of figuring out what kind of music I wanted to sing and learn. It was all a learning curve. I was only 9 years old, so I was just becoming a real human being. So music just followed me everywhere I went, and I knew at such a young age that it was just something that I ate, slept, breathed, and sang.
Have you studied music in terms of actually a vocal technique or history of music? Do you play an instrument? How did this all come about?
I'm mainly self-taught. I've had a couple vocal coaches here and there, and with mentorship from my co-writers and co-producers, I've just learned throughout my career so far, but no, I've not had any formal training. I do dabble with guitar and piano. When I'm writing a song, I sit down at my piano with a sheet of paper, old-fashioned, and I come up with my melodies and chord progressions, but I wouldn't call myself a Beethoven.
No, but I mean, your music is very well thought out. The songs are engaging and they're infectious. I mean, they make you want to listen along. So you've got to have some theory in how to make that work.
Yes, well, with songwriting, it is just like storytelling, but with a beat and a bit more of a connection emotionally and physically. I love music that is fun, and I love music that is relatable, and I write with a universal message so my listeners can listen to the topic that I'm talking about and then therefore relate that to something going on with their own life, but in a positive and inspiring message.
Now, it used to be like 20 or 30 years ago that in order to get noticed, you had to come out with an album or like a CD, and then push it to the radio stations to get airplay so that you'd be recognized and noticed. But the industry has totally changed. And how do you get your music out there? And first of all, how often are you producing something new? And then second of all, how do you get your music out there?
Yes, I grew up in the age when the digital life was coming to form. I had to learn how to use social media because you are not attractive to a record label unless you have that digital following, that virtual fan base. So I had to start creating my own music, but also learn a whole entire new industry, which was the new music industry. I had to learn how to create that virtual fan base and how to present my music to this online presence. I am constantly working on new song ideas and listening to new music to find out how I want to incorporate that to my genre. It is constantly ever changing, the music industry as well, so keeping up with that is certainly difficult, but also staying unique and staying true to who I am as an artist is very important to create a unique aspect that's going to make me who I am and not follow in the footsteps of anybody else in the music industry. But I'm constantly working on new social media content to promote my music, to create new music. It is constantly changing.
And most of your stuff is electronic and through the media. Have you had a chance to do concertizing or take your show on the road, as they say?
Well, thanks to COVID, that is not really possible right now. But yes, I have been on tour before. It was with a company called Camplified, where I went around in the summertime to a bunch of day camps and sleepaway camps, and I performed for campers. I was 15 when I did that. So I went around the Northeast Corridor and performed to a bunch of different camps and campers. I had a set list about 25 minutes, and I sang and danced and performed with the campers, and it was really amazing. It was awesome performing to a younger demographic, which I found really is attracted to my music and me. So I have, from that, honed my craft to present it to a younger demographic. So that really helped me. But I had performed all around the Northeast Corridor. When I was 12 years old, I performed at Madison Square Garden as the halftime show for the New York Knicks against the Chicago Bulls. That was really fabulous and an amazing experience, and I hope to perform there again. But I love performing live. It is who I am as an artist at my core. I love being in front of an audience, and it's really sad that due to COVID, I can't be performing live. But performing virtually is an option as well, doing live broadcasting, which I also absolutely adore.
Well, I mean, I think that, we're all, everybody in the arts on every level is unable to really perform right now until COVID is past.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, realistically, it could be another year before the clubs and the venues reopen to get that opportunity.
I know,
and it's great to do the online stuff, but you don't get the immediate, I don't know, when you're performing live, the audience is with you. And you either feel their response and you feel when they're totally into what you're doing or whether they're backing away. And your performance changes as you have this synergy with an audience. It's got to be more difficult when you're performing live on tape because you never know how the audience is responding unless you see the numbers of people watching and listening, or unless they, pop you a message and say fabulous or this or that.
Yeah, so in my experience, I had the amazing opportunity. I'm sure you know the widely used app TikTok, but it used to be known as Musical.ly, and they had a Lively sister app, which was all live broadcasting for influencers. I had a TV show every Sunday night at 9 p.m. for about a year and a half with this company, Lively, and I performed live for a 1-hour segment every Sunday night. And I did a music countdown. For the week, I counted down the top 10 most popular songs, and I sang them. I performed with the audience, and I had over 2 million people come through every hour, every week. So I had a very large audience to perform to virtually, but the comments were great. I loved to interact with all the audience. I played trivia on the songs with the people in the chat, constantly interacting, and I coined a little term that I like to call the human jukebox, where at the end of my segment for about 3 minutes, the viewers commented in the chat, rapid fire, whatever song they wanted me to sing a snippet of, and I would report that back to them singing a couple lines of whatever song they requested. So it was really nice having a large audience because I was getting that feedback and that response that is so important when you're performing. But yes, it is different not having that physical and being able to see the audience.
And you must have had to have a treasure trove of music in your head to be able to, somebody yells out the name of a song, and to be able to find 2 lines of it right away.
It is very difficult. My mom and everybody that has ever watched me do this human jukebox, they're like, how do you do this? And honestly, I don't know. It is just my passion. I listen to a song and I automatically know the lyrics. it is just something really crazy about me. I have a huge bank of songs that I don't even know, but you could play a song and then I'll be humming and I'll know the words, and I had no idea I actually knew it.
Yeah, I mean, and as you grow and experience other genres of music, that in-head dictionary or library, if you want to call it that, just gets bigger and bigger. I mean, I'm more than twice your age, and I've been in musical theater for most of my life, and I can be walking down the street and hear 2 or 3 notes of a song pop out, and the lyrics are up there, or the melodies and stuff. So that library is going to grow over time. One of the things that I found interesting is people your age that develop their goals and their talents early on oftentimes just jump to doing the work, but you managed to stay through high school, and you went to a rigorous prep school, and you're enrolled in college, and you're pursuing a college degree. How much of your life is music? How much of your life is social influencing, which you've done a really great job of? How much is school?
It is a very difficult balance, because it's not only balancing 2 things, it's balancing almost 4 things: having a social life, having a social media presence, my rigorous schedule of music, and rigorous now college schedule. It is difficult, but I do manage it. In high school, my school was very understanding and knew my travel schedule, because I do travel back and forth from LA, because that is where my producers and everything is located. So during school breaks, that was not a break. That was my time to shine, and that was my time for my 2.5-week breaks where I was working nonstop, traveling to LA for every single one of my breaks. If I had a long weekend, I'd fly out to LA. I was constantly working. So weekends were actually more work for me, and breaks were more work for me. So I never really got a break besides being in school, and being educated was honestly my break from music. And now with college, it is a lot more work than high school, but my work is finally benefiting my career. Like, I am learning multimedia and journalism, and I am a social media influencer, which is really great to finally be learning in college about things that I can actually apply to my career, so it doesn't feel like so much work.
That's phenomenal. Mariel, we're going to take a fast break here to acknowledge the underwriters who make programming like ArtsBeat possible here on 89.5 FM WSKB and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15. When we come back, we'll be chatting more with Mariel Darling, who's a musician, social influencer, college student, and more. And so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Underwriting for community radio is provided by the YMCA of Greater Westfield. Every day, the YMCA strengthens the community through programs and services focused on youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. For all the Y's many programs and services, visit us on the web at www.westfieldymca.org. The YMCA, 67 Court Street in downtown Westfield. We're more than a gym. We're a cause.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to ArtsBeat, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach, your host. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. We broadcast every Friday morning at 8 o'clock from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy. One of the reasons we're broadcasting from here is so that the students at Westfield Technical Academy who are learning broadcasting and sound design and all of that good stuff get an opportunity to work with professionals to learn their craft and trade. We're chatting with Mariel Darling, who is a singer-songwriter and social media influencer who got her career start at the age of 9. She's a Longmeadow, Massachusetts resident. She's currently a student at Western New England University. And I was introduced to her earlier in the summer when I was doing a feature story for a marketing magazine called Succeeding in Small Business. And I was asked to chat with people high school and college age about how they're marketing themselves during the course of the pandemic. And we had this really great chat then, and we're continuing that now. Mariel, you talk about being a social media influencer. What does that mean?
Yeah. To be a social media influencer, it means you have a virtual presence on various social media platforms, and you are influencing your virtual following in whatever medium you are in. So personally, I am a social media influencer that promotes my music, all of the brand endorsements and brand ambassadorships that I have. So if a brand sends me a product, I'm going to endorse it on my page and tell my followers, hey, I really love this lip gloss. You should go check it out. But I'm mainly promoting my music and my personal brand on my social media platforms.
So let me ask you a question. So somebody approaches you and says, hey, Mariel, I've got this new peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I want you to promote it and market it on your platforms and stuff like that. Do you check it out first? What if you don't agree with the product or don't like it? Do you turn it away?
Yes, I definitely do my due diligence in which brands I am representing because it is a reflection of my brand. And I want it to be something that my fans are genuinely going to be interested in. So sometimes I will even ask them like, hey, I could work with this brand or this brand. What do you think is going to be better and what's going to benefit you? And I have a content manager and my music manager who we go back and forth on if we're going to work with this brand or not.
So you have a little team there that works with you and your music and everything else. That must help you out because you wouldn't be able to do it all and go to school.
Oh yeah, it definitely would be really hard if it was just on me. But I have a really great team of about 6 people, and everyone plays a role in kind of keeping this journey going. And we're on a roller coaster and we're all going on the ride. Yes.
And how did you find your team?
So my mother is a huge instrumental role in my journey. I call her my momager. She does a lot of the business side of this. And then I have my manager, Jackie Sarkis. She is absolutely fabulous and wonderful. She used to work for Radio Disney. So she works directly with me, my producers, and she just manages me as an artist. And then I have one of my best friends who is going to school to be a graphic designer, and he also is doing multimedia as well. He manages all of my brand content and reaches out to brands and sifts through all of that to see if a brand is well fit to work with me. And now I have a team of social media strategists from New York that I am currently working with to help me build my online presence and monetization and to get me better virtual opportunities.
Is it possible for you with this? I mean, you've got this phenomenal following on social media. Can you walk down the street without people knowing who you are? Are you been able to protect your personal life and your personal time?
Yes. I have noticed that some people will know me from TikTok or have known me through somebody, but we do live in a small area in Western Massachusetts. So people do talk and people do know who I am. But it is definitely manageable. I hope one day I won't be able to walk down the street without somebody knowing who I am, but I am not at that level yet.
But you're able to protect your privacy, and you're able to protect
Yes.
your family's privacy and all of that. So you don't have gawkers lining the streets of Longmeadow.
No, definitely not. I actually don't say where I live on social media. I only keep it to Massachusetts. So that is definitely helpful. And I don't give out my cell phone number or anything like that. The only way to contact me is through direct messaging or through email, which is not traceable.
Yeah, that's one thing I would advise you, to keep your private life as private
Yes.
as you possibly can. As you're building your brand and you're building your music career and your repertoire and all of that, have you ever thought about exploring, for example, other forms of music that you might want to perform? I know that maybe 20 years ago, the Springfield Symphony was trying to draw new audiences in. They had a summer pop series at Stanley Park in Westfield, and they got some of the up-and-coming singers that were Western Mass based originally, who had sort of made a national name for themselves, that had always wanted to sing pops with an orchestra. As if that idea, or making film, or you going to TV, or some of that, has that entered your mind at this point, or are you taking it one step at a time?
No, that I like to look at everything as a whole. I love drama. I love being a part of productions. I grew up doing theater in elementary school, and I love all that. I sang with the Dan Kane Singers for about 7 years, and I loved doing that. I loved performing with Dan and all of the other singers. It was really great. I would love to do something like that. I also would love to break into acting and modeling as well. It's really sky's the limit. I like to think of myself as a multidimensional and multi-talented artist and influencer, so I'm really open to anything.
And you've got all the time in the world to progress to new things, because you're riding a great highway to the sky right now. How can people find out if they want to look at your work? I'm going to assume that 98% of the people that are listening or watching today don't know who you are, because I'm just making an assumption, but they want to find out more about you or learn about your music. What are the various platforms they can find Mariel Darling?
Yes, well, I'm available on my music is available on all streaming services. So Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your music. Streaming-wise or purchasing-wise, you can find me at Mariel Darling. My most recent song I released was Free Girl, so if you search Mariel Darling Free Girl, I bet you I will pop up. And then on YouTube, I have YouTube videos and music videos. If you just search Mariel Darling in the search bar on YouTube, I will pop up. And on all social media platforms, I am Mariel_Darling.
Mariel, I know that when we talked before you went on the air, you have a class to run to. So we're going to let you run to class, and I want to thank you for joining me today. It's really been a treat for me.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're going to end today's program. I'm going to play Free Girl, which is your most recent song that I could find on YouTube, so that people that are listening today and watching can get a little bit of a sampler of what your music's like. And I hope that I'll get a chance to follow your career down the road and maybe have you back again when the pandemic ends. That you could come in the studio and actually, our studio set up for a performance, and maybe come back at a later time and give us a little show.
Yes, that would be absolutely amazing.
So, Mariel, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a treat. We've been chatting with Mariel Darling, and we're coming to the end of another ArtsBeat. If you missed a part of this program today, you'll be able to find it on YouTube under the WSKB Community Radio page there. We'll be back next Friday with another edition of ArtsBeat TV and Radio. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer today. I'm Mark Auerbach, and we leave you with Mariel Darling's song Free Girl. Have a great weekend.
Always so insecure. Why don't you let me go? You need to let me grow. Questioning my stories. No, I'm responsible. Don't be so paranoid. You always want me to say sorry. Too much mistrust. You got me caught up with you. Don't like the drama. I'm starting to think that you like being mixed up. All this controlling, you switched love. I'm gonna need you to ease up. Oh, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Take your number and wait in line, 'cause I'm with my girls and I'm gonna stay out. Need a vacation from sharing locations. Ooh, I'm a free girl. No more late nights wondering where we're at. Ooh, I'm a free girl. Ooh, I'm a free girl. I'm a free. Oh, I don't learn a lesson. I guess that's what it was, though. I had to let you go. Guess that's just how it panned out. Baby, I'm not the one. Don't know what you thought it was, no. Time is running out. You always want me to say sorry. Too much mistrust. You got me caught up with you. Don't like the drama. I'm starting to think that you like being mixed up. All this controlling, you switched love. I'm gonna need you to ease